Alright, hey guys, I'm Visibility. Now, I've recorded this video 4 times, okay? Now you might be wondering, well, this is an easy tutorial, why did you record it 4 times? Well, I kept unwrapping the mesh before I put the second texture on, so, let's not do that this time. So anyway, this is going to be a tutorial, for making a rock in Blender, okay? So basically, to move around, you're gonna middle mouse, do this. Middle mouse control to zoom in like this, middle mouse and shift to pan like this, okay? So click X to delete your cube and go down here to create and click ICO sphere, okay? Now don't move it at all, okay? If you move it, you're gonna lose all these settings over here forever. Change subdivisions to 1, okay? Now you can move it, do whatever, you throw it out the window. No, don't do that, don't do that. See, this doesn't look like a rock right now, okay? Might look a very low poly rock, but it doesn't look like a rock, okay? So what we're going to want to do is go down here to object mode and select sculpt mode, okay? It should automatically be on sculpt draw, but if not, just click X or go up here and choose sculpt draw. Go down here to this dino thing. It's dynamic topography. It basically makes more polygons as you're sculpting. Click that. Make sure symmetry lock is off, unless you want to make a very symmetrical rock, but I don't really understand why anyone would do that, because I mean, if you want to make a symmetrical rock, you can do that, and it'll mirror it on the X, Y, Z axis. But normally rocks are symmetrical. Normally anything in nature isn't symmetrical. So anyways, let's just start sculpting on the rock. You can see instantly we can just sculpt on the rock. And everyone has this idea that to make like organic materials like rocks, you're gonna have to do a lot of hard work, because when people see things modeled in a Blender, they see all these vertices and like faces, and they're like, oh, do I have to move all those individually? No, you don't have to move all those individually. It's just a matter of like how you make it. You could do that the hard way and make them all like that individually, but I would recommend against it because that takes a long time. So once you have your base kind of shape of your rock, go ahead and hit S or go up here and click smooth and just kind of smooth out the rock a little bit. Make it kind of feel better about itself, like it's an actual good looking rock. Basically make the rock any shape or size you want. Doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna go for like a base rocky kind of rock. So now once we have this, we can go ahead and go back into object mode, okay? So we have our little rock here, and go down here to these 3 lines. Once your cursor turns into a crosshair kind of thing, drag over. Okay, great. Okay, visibility, you just duplicated my rock. Okay, now, what do I do now? Is the rock done? What do I do? I have 2 rocks now. I actually don't have 2 rocks. If you want 2 rocks, you can just shift D, and then you see that we have another rock. But we're not going to do that. Let's just duplicate the window. That's pretty useless at this point. What we're going to want is this sweet, sweet node editor. So you go down here to this 3D view, and go up to node editor. Now, we're going to have these little graphic things. Oh my god, guys, is it math class? No, it's not math class. Now, on the surface, this looks pretty confusing. Like, I'm going to have to do a lot of stuff here. But you're really not. I'm going to explain what everything does and how it works. This also might be a good time to get a camera angle, kind of, maybe, if you want that. And change it to rendered. This is a real-time render of how your rock is going to look. I would highly, highly recommend you be in this view, because it lets you see how your rock is actually going to look. Instead of being in texture mode or material view mode. If you have a light computer, depending on what kind of textures and how many rocks you have in your scene, it might tank your computer a lot. But just be prepared for your fans to spin. You might even be able to hear mine spin when I do certain things. So basically, once we have the rock selected by just right clicking on it, go down here to new material, name it whatever you want. I'm just gonna name it rock 1, and we should have these 2 nodes right here. One is diffuse and one is the material output. So just right click on the diffuse and control T. So now we have these 3. If you don't have these 3, go up here to File, User Preferences, Add-ons, and go to Node Wrangler. And check it, and then save user settings. I already have it enabled, so I don't need to do that. You should have it enabled, but just in case you don't, I just decided to point that out. So now go ahead and change the actual texture to your rock texture. I'll leave all the textures I used in the description. Now we should see it's a potato. Okay, that is that visibility. What do you want? That is a potato. That's because right here we have it on UV, and if you remember the beginning, I talked about how I UV unwrapped it before I applied the second texture. So we don't want to do that. We're gonna want to click generated and move it down a vector. Okay, now we have this really stretched out, ugly looking rock texture. So just scale it. Depending on how you scale it and what you scale it on, it'll look different. Depending on what texture you use. I'd say that looks pretty good for this tutorial. But just mess around with it a little bit. You'll eventually get it. So now we have a rock, okay? You can stop right here and be like, yo, Daniel, I modeled this rock in Blender. I'm a modeler now. And your friend Daniel's going to be like, what is that? No, that is not. So I'm going to teach you how to impress your friends even more by adding moss to the rock. Yes, that's right. Only for $9.99 you can add moss to your rock. Okay. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to add Shift A over here and add another image texture. So you can never have too much image texture. Just Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, basically anything, okay? We're not going to do that, okay? So make sure you only have 2 image textures, and we're also going to add a noise texture, okay? No, this is not going to make your rock be a party rock, okay? We don't want party rocks here. Remember what happened last time with that. Okay, so once you have your noise texture, position it anywhere. Also added a color ramp. The color ramp and the noise texture are friends, so we're just gonna connect its color into its FAC. Okay, that's how you know they're friends. Okay. We're also gonna add 2 hue and saturations. We are going to need the hue and we don't really need it, but we need the hue and saturation. We're gonna go ahead and add 2 of these, and go ahead and connect the second image texture to this one. We're also going to add a mix RGB, because you can never have too much RGB. Now the moss, the one with the moss needs to be connected to color 2, and the one with the actual rock texture needs to be connected to color 1. So just go ahead and connect those right now, and disconnect this from diffuse, and connect the mix to, let me go ahead and move these back a little bit just to get a little bit more organized. Go ahead and connect this color to diffuse, and so now we can see we don't have another texture. So go ahead and open up your moss texture. I'm gonna use this one. Okay, so we have that now. Now this color ramp, I'm gonna go ahead and move this back a little bit. This color ramp is going to go into the FAC on the mix. Okay. Now, if you go ahead and do this right now, you're going to see that it's kind of just splotches, okay? Kind of just a little bit of splotches and stuff. We don't really want that. What we're going to want is to go into solid mode and hit tab to go into edit mode and hit U and unwrap it. Now, if we go back into object mode, go into rendered, you can see now we have moss on the rock. Okay, you can go ahead and in the color ramp and adjust the black and white kind of ratio if you want complete moss, if you just want like little bits of moss. If we zoom in, it's pretty high quality moss. Okay, like that's some pretty high quality moss. Okay, so now we have our moss. Let me experiment with this for a minute. Okay. We don't need a bump map, so just disregard what I just did there. Okay, but now we have a little rock, and that's basically it for the tutorial. Now you have a moss colored, well, not moss color, but now you have a pretty good looking rock for whatever you need your rock to. Just experiment. I obviously didn't make mine look that good for the sake of making the tutorial a little shorter. Just experiment with a lot of these settings and stuff. You can, if you need to slow down, just copy things I have in that. You should get the hang of it, and if you need some help, then comment it down below. I'll be really surprised. Not surprised. I'll be really anticipated to help you. So just leave it in the comments below any problems you have, and I'll be welcome to help you. As always, guys, my name is Visibility. If you liked the video, make sure to smack the like. I can't talk today. Make sure to smack the like button and the thumb. Really helps the channel out. My name is Visibility. Goodbye.